Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to NickTalks. Um, so, hope everybody's doing good. Um, not a whole lot of, I feel like I say this every time, not a whole lot of updates here. As I've mentioned in the past, we're kind of in between the major goals that are part of the path here. So I don't have super consistent updates right now. I'm just putting one brick at a time in the system, essentially, just learning and saving and trying to make smart choices with money and time and all that jazz, the layers of paint that make the mountain here, right? So hopefully you guys are doing the same. You're following the path that you have set out for yourself and you are getting the bag. Cool. So before we begin, I have two quick notes. One a little quicker than the other, but we'll get through those and then we'll jump through the huge around here. So the first one being post-smoking, another note. I told you I was going to keep sprinkling these in as I notice things, not primarily about smoking, but just about the things that I notice post, life-ruining experiment, right? So I've noticed that without smoking, now that some time has elapsed, it is a lot easier to kind of sit back in the saddle of your experiences, right? And relax into the moment. Whereas I always felt like a little bit in a rush. Now, I normally feel like this anyways. Like I need to know what the objective is. I need to know where we're going. I need to know what's going on. Like I want to have a place to go. I want to have a plan, right? Even if that plan is like, we're going to chill out and do nothing for the next 3 hours and then we're going to go somewhere. At least I know what the plan is. But I just can't stand in between spaces. So this is not quite the same thing. But what I mean is like when I'm in the moment of, I'm out to dinner or I'm going for a walk with a friend or a partner or something like that. Just not being able to be fully present and relaxed in the situation. And now I've noticed that it's become much easier for me to do that. So something to think about if you are still actively smoking. Man, I got to do something about this camera shake one of these days. I don't know if it pisses you guys off, but it pisses me off, right? Every time I'm very articulate with my hands, dude, and every time I slam down on my desk, it's like I got a little tremor going. But if you're thinking about, man, maybe I should quit smoking, the ambient anxiety, as we like to call it here, kind of fades away a little bit, and you're able more to kind of relax into whatever you're doing, which is good. So you can experience the moment rather than, waiting for the next one, and then always waiting for the next one, and then never enjoying the one you're in. Right. So, second one, since I've, kind of opened the door on experiments, there's another one that I wanted to talk about that I've been running for I don't know how long I've been in this place, but probably 5 to 7 months, roughly. Maybe less, maybe 4 to 6, somewhere in there. So basically the last place that I worked, both serving jobs, right? Both similar pricing, kind of. So it's not like one is fine dining and one is a dive bar. They're relatively similar. One is a chain, so corporate structure, and one is not. But I don't think that introduces too many variables. But basically, in the first place, I was me, as I normally am. I try to be outgoing, and especially if I'm on my shit, then I'm usually pretty excited about what I'm doing and what I'm learning and where I'm going, and I kind of try to raise the frequency of whatever room I'm in. And, I care about people, man of the people, as I like to say. And, I like talking to people. I like hearing about their lives. I like hearing their stories. I like getting to know them. I like being on a first name basis, coming in and being like, hey, man, what's going on? How was that thing with your kids, man? And then, hey, what's going on? Did you, go to that reunion? That kind of stuff. I just really like it. I like seeing how people feel when they know you care. And then they reciprocate that. Right? It just warms up the presence, especially in a fucking shithole like Miami, where, okay, Miami's great for its own reasons, but socially is not like that, right? And especially coming from small towns, I'm much more used to that, and so it's obvious that can be ported here. But I'm, sharding off a little bit. So that's how I was in this last place. It was very happy-go-lucky. It was very like, my work ethic is primary concern, right? But, I want to be, doing as much good as I can. And now when I moved to this place, I was like, you know what? I'm going to see if maybe there's a different system that I can use. Because there were some problems that I noticed that would arise from organizing my work balance or my work boundaries with coworkers in that way. Some kind of problems. It wasn't a lot of problems, I will say. It was mostly good, but I will say there were some issues that I was having where it's like sometimes you just know too much about these people and it's like, wow, these people are a freaking mess, dude. Especially in the restaurant industry, like half of them are on freaking coke or amphetamines, or they all smoke cigarettes, and have horrible parents or horrible partners, or they're constantly cheating. It's like there's always bad stuff going on, right? And so like when you get too close, all that stuff, and it's hard to see the person as someone that you should be communicating with. So that's kind of the problems that I was noticing. And so when I moved to this place, I was like, you know what? I want to try being completely hands off, no communication. I'm here to work. I'm here to complete my tasks. I'm here to be straightforward, beeline. You're not going to know anything about my personal life, and I don't want to know anything about yours. And so that's what I've been doing since I got there. And now that it has kind of played out long term, there are some interesting notes that I have now. So right off the bat, when I'm kind of happy-go-lucky, as I described, I can climb the social hierarchy of any institution within days to weeks, pretty instantly, all the way up to the management level where like I get favorable options and choices, and I pretty much get whatever I want within reason because I work very hard, so I earn that, but I'm also very good at communicating, so I get on people's good sides really quick. Now, not quite the case this time around. I would say that the work ethic really, really pays off. That buys you more than any sweet talking can. So it definitely helped, and I definitely still got some favorable treatment, but it was obvious that people didn't like me. It wasn't necessarily that they disliked me, but they sure didn't like me, and they were, I don't know if uncomfortable is the word, but it was always like unsure. Like they didn't know what was going on. They didn't understand me. They didn't get it. They didn't know what to think. And it was a very unnerving experience for all of us, I'd say. So that right off the bat is very interesting. Now, like I said, the work ethic really buys you a lot. So if you're not doing as much as you could be at work, dude, just bump it up. If you're the hardest worker in that place, you could be a total asshole and everybody's still going to be like, yeah, but, the hardest working guy here. So, or gal. However, I have since heard some not so nice things that have been said about me and definite misinterpretations of me that happened early on where I was communicating and they just didn't get it. They didn't understand what I was saying or what was going on because they didn't have all of the, jokey time to understand what kind of person I am. Instead, they have minuscule interactions and they have to try and form a whole persona about it within their mind, and it just doesn't really work. It's obviously hard for people to do that, and work ethic only works with work, right? It doesn't help you socially, really. Like, you can gain respect, sure, but it's not going to be, they're not going to be into you in terms of, friendly or anything like that. It was just weird. It's just weird, and it was weird forever. It was weird for the longest freaking time. Like, the first 2 months, every day I'd go in and be like, dude, I think everyone freaking hates me. I'm really not sure. And somebody would do something nice, and I'd be like, well, maybe not. But it was so hard to tell. Like, they couldn't read me, and I was also not able to read them as a consequence. So that's something that is a very odd takeaway. Second, this is something more recent. There's a kid that started, reminds me a lot of a young me, okay? And so we kind of bonded immediately, and he's the only person that I socially interact with at all at work. Everyone else, it's like nothing. You ask me a question about my personal life, I'll literally just and then walk away. Like, that's how cut down it is, I don't answer questions, and I'm not rude. I'm very polite. I'm nice. I'll help you out. I'll give you the shirt off my back if you need it. But it's always about work. We are here to do a job, and what exists outside of these doors is none of your business, and none of my business in terms of yours, right? So it's very textbook. What are we doing here? What is the purpose of my time being spent here? Instead of, all this other stuff that happens at work, right? And so again, I've been more social with this guy, and the relationship has extended more, and then something happened with his car, so then I was taking him home after work on the days that we work together, right? And then actually shortly after that, he confided some information to me about some very personal things that he was looking for advice for. And what's interesting about this is that when I was at the last place where I was super friendly and super open and honest, and I'll tell you anything you want to know, I'm not going to get super personal about how much tongue I use when I kiss or something, right? I'll keep it appropriate for work, but at the same time, other than that, you want to know what I'm learning about, you want to know what I'm doing with my life, you want to talk about goals and aspirations, and you want to talk about stories from the past. Sure, we can do all that, right? Open book. When that was the case, I noticed that familiarity combined with me constantly crushing goals and being fit. I was in that place, definitely bigger even than I am now, and also stronger, right? And people notice those things, and especially when I'm a really hard worker and I take care of my appearance. And I try at least to be constantly learning, and so I'm very articulate, and I talk about the things that I'm learning and the hobbies that I'm interested in, and what I've learned about gardening and neuroscience and health and fitness and diet and longevity, all these things. And so I noticed that all of that combined with the familiarity of me being friendly leads people to see me as a resource, or led people to see me as a resource. And all the time, customers and coworkers alike would come to me asking questions, and sincere questions of hey, I'm really struggling to gain weight. I just don't know what to do. Any tips? Hey, I'm trying to lose some pounds. Hey, I have this thing coming up. Any way that I can shed a little bit of fat before I go? Hey, I'm just trying to slim down a little. Hey, I've been training for a while, but I'm just not packing on muscle. What are you doing? How would you, guide me a little bit? And then not only this, but when I give advice, it's sincere advice. It's genuinely what I think. And that plus, I can tell that they really receive it. Now, if they do anything about it or not, I don't know. But they are asking for advice, and they want to hear the answer. Whereas sometimes people ask you for advice, and they go, yeah, and then they don't do anything about it, or they don't listen to you at all, right? They just want you to tell them what they want to hear. Well, I don't do that, obviously. And so it was like a building a community of heightened values, essentially, and where everyone's a resource, and if you need help, you can come to me, obviously, just giving off that energy of, I want to help, dude. And if you have a question, of course, I'm not ashamed to we'll go sit down and talk about it for a minute, right? And we'll get you there. So that has not been the case at all, 0%. I think it happened one time in the first week that I was working at this new place, where somebody asked me, hey, you seem pretty fit, and I was not as fit when I first started there. I was off a pretty long break, so not doing too great, but they had some kind of shoulder problem, and they were asking me some stretches or something they could do to fix it. So there was that, but then other than that, zero, nothing, no questions, no asking me what I do, no curiosity about what I know, none of that stuff. And then as soon as I open the door of friendliness to this other person, they immediately are like, hey, I have this problem. What do you know about it? What can you do to help? Do you know something that I can make use of this? Right? And then that, and also they were receptive and willing to take my advice, right? Which is a very important part of asking for advice. So, talking about all this, bringing it home here is, it seems to me that it is at least a possibility. I think it seems pretty conclusive from this, but I try not to jump to conclusions immediately. But it seems conclusive anyways that in being so uptight and rigid about sharing my private life and being socially and colloquially communicative, I am robbing my surroundings or the people in my surroundings of a greater good that I could be giving to them, right? So think about this, like anything that you are good at. If you are very shy and you keep everything to yourself, you are keeping that light only to you, and you are depriving others of experiencing it, right? And so that's what this looks like to me. And so I think that there is a pretty hefty argument to be made on being highly social and what that does to build community around, accepting each other and looking for, what every man has to teach the other, right? So that's just something that I've learned. It was kind of a long roundabout thing, but this is actually like way more complicated than what I'm summing up here. But I thought it was interesting nonetheless that immediately as soon as I build any opening of relationship, it was like, boom, hey, here's a real freaking issue. I'm kind of looking for help here. It's like, wow, okay. And then obviously, I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you because why would I not? What am I going to do? Make fun of you? Come on, dude. So I think that's interesting. And if you are one of these types that is doing what I'm doing right now and shunning everyone at work, just take this kind of as a note, right? And so now, with these findings, does that mean I am willing? Because I totally get my juice for sure. Not all of my juice, but it's a significant boost in juice when I'm expelling good out into the world. Like when I was at this other place and I was like, I could see people asking more and more questions about the gym and stuff like that. And they'd come to me all excited and say, hey, I've been going to the gym for 2 weeks, man. And I'd be like, hell yeah, I'm so proud of you, dude. And high five, And then other people would be like, hey, man, I tried what you did and it worked out, Like just this whole building, again, this community, like that stuff really is like fulfilling, It brings this light and heightened frequency of energy to the whole surroundings. And so now that I am at least hypothesizing that in the way that I'm acting now, I am depriving the people that I could be giving that light to, I am depriving them of that same light, then the question is, am I or should I flip back to the other way of doing things, which is how I am, right? Like this is not the way that I like to act. I'm doing this simply to see what the difference is, and also if it impacts my money, how it affects my relationship with customers, and how much money I make, right? This is all, part of it. Like I said, it's more complicated than just what I've said, but we're not going to get into the whole deal. So the question again is, should I go back to what I was doing before because it would be bringing more good into the world, more value into my surroundings, and more light to the people in my life? Maybe. But I think it's too far down the rabbit hole for me to just flip back. And so if I do find that that is the way to go, then it would have to be a transition that was done over several months to even a year. And then the familiarity can be built, because I think too much of a flip-flop would be like a, screen shift, and then people would get a little jarred, right? Honestly, normal people have like no long-term conscious thinking. I've noticed anyways. So it would probably be like weird for a couple days, and then after a month, people would be like, "Oh, that's just how he's always been." I've noticed that as well. Whenever I make changes, people like just don't remember that I was a certain way forever. Where it's like, dude, I remember how you've been this whole time, and we can sit and talk about it. Whatever. So, extended note about my little social experiment here, and economics experiment as well. I guess it's socioeconomic, sure. But either way, maybe more on that later. So, now, after that, all that junk, not junk, it's actually pretty cool, I think. We'll jump into the taters here. So, kind of keeping with the same thing that I talked about, I believe, in the last video about enjoying your current circumstances because you're never going to have them again. And there were some more things that I wanted to add onto this kind of being present, this living in the moment and experiencing life, and all that stuff. I just kind of want to build on that a little bit here. So something that I've been really trying to actively remember is to enjoy my youth, right? So when I learn, constantly about, especially since one of the main avenues of thought and discussion and knowledge that I operate within is health, right? Obviously, talked about it before, but inside of health, there is all of the detriments of smoking cigarettes and vapes and weed and drinking alcohol and all these things, right? And so it seems prudent to cut all interactions with these things. But I think it's important to keep in mind that, like, I'm in my early 20s. And if there was ever a time for me to do a little bit of damage to my body, it is now, right? Within reason, obviously, but you slow down your healing process as you age. And so why should I not take advantage of the space or of the factors that only youth provides, right? So that's something that I really try to stay in tune with, because many times I've even contemplated or started on a journey of I'm done with alcohol forever, right? And shortly after, it's like, I feel like I'm making a mistake. I don't think that it's a mistake to quit drinking. I think that I'll end up there anyways, or at least drinking very rarely. But for right now, it's like, I might as well experience it as much as I can now without overindulging, rather than, I get to 50 and I'm like, man, now if I have 2 beers, I wake up with a freaking headache. Whereas I could have smashed stuff when I was younger and then quit now, and it would have been totally okay. I could have had my fill then, lived the life of a youngster, and, at least enjoyed it while I had the opportunity, rather than trying to, be too far ahead of the curve and then wasting this part of my life. Is it a waste? No, obviously not. But like, I want to maximize my experience here, and jumping too far ahead, trying to grow up too quickly, I think is a mistake. And this is something that I've sort of always had to keep in the back of my mind. Even when I was a lot younger, it was like, I feel like I'm growing up too quickly, and there are benefits that come with that, because you definitely are ahead of a lot of people, and that's a little addicting. But I think it's important to slow the roll a little, kid. Just relax. It's all right. You're gonna get there anyways. And I'm not saying keep your foot off the gas. Maybe just let off a little bit. I'm all for you going ahead and getting further than other people, because you're more focused and more determined to give up the novelties of youth, just so that you can achieve a higher level of cognition and understanding of the world and of people and all these things. I'm all for that. But I think if it comes at the cost of experiencing and enjoying the life that you could be living, that you can only live at the age that you are, then it's not worth it, in my opinion. Sometimes it can be, but you have to be really conscious of the fact that you're trading here. This isn't a free pass that you're getting to just be smarter and to be faster and to be ahead and to know more and to understand more. It's not just free. You are giving up something. You are giving up the freedom of youth, the lack of responsibilities, the fun, the free laughter all the time, the hanging out with the buddies, the lack of responsibility. Again, that's a big thing. Once you start taking on more responsibilities, it's kind of a one-way street, unless you want to end up in the dumpster, kind of. You kind of just have to keep pushing forward, otherwise you just aren't going to be in a good spot. So I think it's something to be very conscious of, and don't push just too heavy into the future, because you're going to waste what you have right now and you're not going to get it back. I can't stress this enough. Once it's gone, it's gone. There is no coming back. There is no reliving that moment. There is no, let me recreate it. This is something that I've had to really come to terms with, because, especially leaving everything that I had behind to carve out a new path in my life, and to, really, if we get down to the deep nuts and bolts of it, to create massive success and wealth and fortune and experience and stuff like this, right? Because I would rather give it up now in order to create better experiences later, yes, but at the same time, at the cost of what I could have been doing. I'm slightly getting sidetracked, but I had this equation in my mind where it's like, if I just work really hard now, I give up everything. I don't talk to my friends, I don't talk to my family, I don't talk to anybody, I don't worry about people at work, I don't worry about anything. I just grind and grind and grind and grind and grind. Then eventually I'll get there. I'll get to the end of the rainbow, and then I can recreate all those moments that we could have had, but better. That's not true. It's not true. It's slightly true. I can create moments, but I will never be able to create those moments. I will never be able to go to the bar with my friends after we just turned 21, right? I'll never be able to, drive my piece of shit car with all my buddies out into the middle of a field and smoke a bunch of weed. I'll never be able to do that, right? As a 20-year-old or a 17-year-old, right? I'll never be able to go to, up to that girl that I've been thinking about for, every day for 2 years as a 14-year-old, right? So it's like, if you push too far ahead, you forfeit the option of having those moments that you never get back. You never get them back. And even if maybe you're better off for it, but how would you know? How do you know, man? It's a gamble. It's not a good trade-off. And I think it's just something that you really, really, really need to think through about the pace at which you are moving forward, right? So kind of keeping in the same theme is, don't push so hard that you forget to live your life now. This is seemingly identical to what I said in the last video, but I just, again, wanted to expand on it some more. You hear a lot about these, uber billionaires and millionaires and, on the front of Forbes at 25, right? And they talk about how, I didn't buy shoes for 10 years, and I was sewing my socks together, and I only ate one meal every single day. And it's like, okay, so what you're telling me is that you had a shitty fucking life for all of it, and then now you're rich and you can kind of do whatever you want. But, what about all those years in between? Why is that the formula rather than just extending your time horizon by a few years? That's nothing. And you get to make still great progress, but you get to enjoy every step of the way. You get to see all of the steps as they are unfolding and fully appreciate them and think them through and understand the gravity of the moments that you are in, rather than just full speed ahead, light speed, massive freaking throttle, and missing what's right in front of you, right? So I think it's, again, something that you have to be super conscious of now. Obviously, I'm just a guy sitting here in a beater and some ripped up gray sweatpants. Don't listen to what I say. But just think about it. Just think about it, man, because this is something that I have tried to keep in the back of my mind always, so that I don't get too caught up in the machine of wealth, the machine of success, right? This grimy, life in the gears of just pacing along, right? Because it's very easy, as we talked about in the past, to get caught up in this addiction of the race, of the moving forward, of the optimization, of the learning more, of the getting better, the getting stronger, the faster. But it's like, okay, yes, but at the same time, just slow down. And I think actually this is something that maybe has also come from the fact that I've allowed myself to take so many breaks from my fitness. And that, I always come back, yes, but I'm okay with giving up some gains so that I can, just kind of experience fucking around. So I can experience, drinking with my feet up on the couch every weekend, right? Because at a certain point, it's not going to be the same. If you ever get it back, which is a maybe, it's still not going to be the same. It's still not going to be the same, until what? You're retired? Until you're 70, right? 50 if you're lucky. Still, your body has deteriorated significantly. You can't do the same things as you could before. You're not going to be shotgunning beers with the boys, right? You're not going to be freaking playing beer pong for 17 hours straight through the weekend. It's just not going to happen, right? You just can't put them down like that anymore, dog. So, like I said, it has been very beneficial to me to recognize what I'm willing to give up for what I want in the future, and recognize what I want in the future and how quickly I want to get there at the expense of my current moment or current moments that could exist, right? So that's a little thing. That's a little thing that I've been trying to keep up with for a while now. And again, it kind of comes with, I want to be more present. I want to be more in the moment. I want to create more experiences now, not just wait for them to occur when I have money to do whatever the hell I want, which is going to be awesome, sure. But I could also argue that if you are in the habit of creating good experiences without money, then money will only enhance them. Whereas, if you don't know how to do that and then you finally get money, you're going to be like all these freaking nerds that have $1 million in the bank. And they look like nerds. They don't do anything. They don't go anywhere. Motherfucker, if I had money, how much crazy stuff I'd be able to do? You know how much imagination I could put into spending 10 grand, right, for a weekend if I had that kind of cash to blow? But these guys, I've been pinching my pennies for my whole life. Okay, what? So you invest it and make more money, and make more money, and make more money. That's not what it's about, dog. The money is just the tool. The money is the fuel. The money is the drive. It is the tickets to the game. It is the keys to the castle. Sure. But it is not your experience of life. It is not that. It is not that. It can enhance that. But it just seems so often like all these gurus just get caught up in the game of making money. And I'm sure that it is great. I'm sure it's addicting and I'm sure it's fun. But to never take a break and just smell that coffee that you just put on, and the cake that somebody just brought in and baked, and hear the crunch of that fresh bread, man, and listen to the ice jingling and the waves on the ocean, right? To just hear all these things. What the fuck are we doing? You get to the end, and what did you have? Money? Cool. Let me go ahead and put that big medal that you were able to pay for on top of your fucking casket, dude. Right? Who's going to speak at your eulogy? Or speak your eulogy? I don't really know how that works. Who's going to speak at your funeral, dude? Who's going to go up there and say, oh, this is the impact he had on my life. This is the greatness that he brought into the world. This is, the light that this person was able to shine, right? The experience this person had, right? The husband, the father, the friend, the brother, the sister, right? The aunt, the uncle. That's what is going to be what extends further than you. That is your legacy. It is not the amount of money that you make. That is going to be a header on maybe a textbook, maybe Guinness World Records if you're lucky, for a year. And then it's gone, right? Maybe if you're real lucky, you'll be influential enough with that money and you'll, get some kind of Wikipedia page. Okay. Hell of a legacy, bud. So that's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Got a little bit, into it there, but as far as we know, we only got one of these suckers, right? We only got one go round, okay? Now, obviously you can believe what you want to believe, but we only know for a fact that we have one on this rock here, right? So why not make the most of it? Why be so in a rush? Okay? Be in a hurry. Always be in a hurry. I'm the first guy that's going to tell you to pick up the pace, have a sense of urgency, right? Don't go 45 in a 45. Go at least 50, right? At least 50. Get to where you're going. Of course, I'm with you 100%. But just remember to sprinkle in some time for some experiences in there, some moments, that salt on the life, right? Just to have it. Because that's what makes it fun. I'm sure it's fun hitting your first $10,000 month. And then I'm sure it's fun hitting your first $100,000 month. And then first $1 million month. I'm sure it's a great time. But is it the same as like going to see your first orchestra perform with someone that you care about? Wow, this is a crazy experience I've never had before. Is it the same as going to experience food from a different part of the world that you've never even heard of and just trying it out and it ends up being awesome, right? It's not the same. It's not the same. Cool. A number has changed in my ledger. That's great, right? So I'll quit the harping, but I'm serious, man. It seems like I don't want to say the older that I get, but that's definitely a factor. With age and with more responsibility and with more understanding of how finite time is, or at least the time that I know that I have is, right? Because maybe I get lucky and I live 300 years. Who knows? There's a lot of time before, my average lifespan would be extinguished, right? Maybe there's some crazy stuff that comes out before then and I get to live a lot longer. I don't know. Maybe I'm suddenly blessed by the gods with immortality. Who knows? All of these things are not entirely improbable, right? But for what I know for certain is that I only have about 60 to 80 years. And I've spent 20 of them, right? Kind of makes you want to be conscious, especially because most people don't think about this until they're 50. And then it's like, oh man, I don't have so much time left. I really should enjoy the moment. Yeah, what about the last 50 years, son? What about all that stuff? Is it gone? Oops. Oopsies. Whoop. Slip. Come on, dude. So, this is the same thing as thinking about longevity now, about maximizing your health now, about taking care of your brain now, about looking into all aspects of, your blood profiles and, the way your muscles are structured and, making sure you're getting the right amounts of cardio, all these things. It's the same amount as thinking about it now. Oh, I don't have to think about those things until I'm at least 35 or at least 40. That's when things start to go downhill. Yeah, but if you've been on it 20 years ahead of schedule, you're that much further ahead of the curve. At what cost? You're fit now? You get to enjoy life more for longer? It seems like, I'll just wait until it's there and then I'll make the decision. No, bro, plan ahead, dude. But anywho, I keep saying that I'm going to stop harping on it, but whatever. Whatever. Cool. So we'll put that to bed for now, but it will come back and we'll move on. So I actually recorded part of a video about dealing with addiction, and ways that I have found to deal with different levels of addiction. And it was dog shit. It was dog shit video. It was so bad. It was basically like the wife from Step Brothers when she's singing in the car. Just horrible, dude. Where's the soul? Where's the love? Where's the fucking passion, dude? Right? So scrapped it, but I do want to talk more and more about addiction because I am someone who has experienced a lot down that road, and I think that I've developed some strategies and some, at least understandings that may be of use that I would like to talk about. But one thing, just kind of, creaking the door open for now, is limiting your exposure or use or indulgence, your imbibement with substances as much as you can, for the specific purpose of having full brain function most of the time. So, for example, I am someone who, I don't know how much I can get away with saying on here. I guess it doesn't really matter now. I mean, I got like 10 subscribers, dude. So, I don't mind smoking weed. I think it's pretty great. I think it's even better the more often that I smoke it. However, meaning like I can get more in the zone of how weed is great when I smoke it more often. Whereas if I don't ever smoke it and then I smoke it like, once every few months, I'm just like a paranoid mess and I want to throw up, right? Kind of the same with alcohol. If I don't drink for 6 months and then I drink, I think that I can drink like I did before and I always end up throwing up, right? So, but I think that there's some significant benefit to limiting the use of these things. So both alcohol and weed, any drug of any kind changes the way your brain functions, right? That is what it does, okay? So I think that it's great to do these things occasionally. I am a huge advocate of the plus sides of these things, and also some other substances that we won't get into now, but I think there are benefits to be had. But at the same time, I think that it's even better if you abstain mostly, and then, not even every weekend. I mean, like, maybe every other weekend or further, so that your mind has the full time span to go back to normal and you get to experience what your normal brain function is like as the base, right? Because if you are just smoking weed all the time, or you're drinking all the time, or you're blasting coke all the time, then that's the brain that you know. And so your regular brain is foreign to you, and therefore you don't know how to use it, right? And so I think that shouldn't be the dynamic that's in place. You should flip that on its head to where, like, if you want to do these things occasionally, then go ahead. It's not going to kill you, right? Obviously, fentanyl is a huge problem. Please test your product before using it. Obviously. Please test your product. Use a reagent kit. Check it. Check that stuff for fentanyl, dude. Otherwise, you're dead instantly, pretty much. Have fun suffocating, man. It's not a freaking joke. It's not fun. It's not cool. It's actually like a huge epidemic. But if you just, do it every once in a while, then you are a master of understanding how your mind works all the time. And so then you can be even more conscious of the effects of that substance and how it either lowers your conscious ability or sometimes heightens in certain aspects, right? Or lowers here and heightens here. You can kind of take stock of all of the effects of these substances rather than being so involved in them that you can't really see outside of them. You got the blinders on, right? So that has been hugely beneficial to me. And as I've mentioned in the past, I am a somewhat impulsive person, so that was not an easy habit to form. But having most of my time completely sober, I would even argue that caffeine is on this list of things that should be, an occasional use case. Having that as the base system of where I'm just sober all the time, right? Then I can both appreciate the good parts of using substances and understand all of the bad parts of using substances. And that also helps you justify the use or abstinence, right? Because sometimes it's like, oh wow, I thought that, if I had 2 drinks a night, or if I had, 2 drinks at night, not 2 drinks every night, but 2 drinks in a night, then, I got terrible sleep and then I woke up horribly dehydrated and my brain function was poor the next day. But, I was just a month sober and I had a couple drinks and it was fine. It was totally fine, right? Oh, I used to think that, I was super slow for the next 3 days after any time I smoked weed. And then I just did it and it's like, I'm pretty fine the next morning, right? Or, man, I kind of thought that I was fine the next morning after smoking weed, but I just smoked some and I'm like 3 days later and I still feel a little foggy, right? So you just get to register these effects and how they really impact your cognition. And so that way you can make better, smarter, more informed decisions on what to include in your life and how much, right? Because I don't think that I would ever argue complete abstinence from anything. I think that kind of, goes back on the whole experience thing that, yes, optimize for a longer life, optimize for a faster brain, optimize for a healthier, longer, whatever experience. Sure. But at the same time, don't do it at the cost of living a normal life, living a life that you enjoy, that you can let loose every once in a while. That's okay. It's not going to freaking murder you, dude. It's all right. Don't get too caught up in the race, dog. Right? But, maybe if you are mostly sober and then you start interacting with things, you recognize that, okay, actually, I used to think that this was way more fun and it's really, I don't enjoy it anymore. So then you could save that money, you could save that time, you could save that brain power and just not do it ever again. And okay, now now you've made the decision. But you only get that frame of reference from a sober mind, from a mostly sober mind, because otherwise, like I said, the frame is inverted and you don't have a correct understanding of what is really happening, both with and without, because you haven't really understood what is happening without, so you can't understand it with, or vice versa, right? So, yeah. That's my take anyways. But that is the last thing that I have to say, other than the life hack, which is a fun one. I completely forgot about this for the longest time. Like, I didn't forget about it. I use it pretty actively. I guess less so here because everybody is driving super fast, so I don't really have to, employ this tactic. But in places like Michigan, where there's less traffic and most people in traffic go the speed limit or under the speed limit, this is something that a friend of mine's mom actually told me about when I was very young, and I have taken it to heart ever since, and it was something that I used all the time. It's very fun. It's called the White Rabbit, okay? Similar to Neo, the Matrix. Follow the White Rabbit, okay? So, the White Rabbit is when you're driving and there is somebody who speeds past you going at a relatively healthy speeding pace. So not the guy who's going 150 in his freaking Lambo, dude, okay? You're not going to keep up to him in your freaking 98 Honda Civic, right? But big old SUV going, 15, 20 miles an hour over the speed limit. That's not bad. Cruises past you. You dive into the lane behind him, and then you give yourself some space, but then you match their speed, right? So then, if he blows past a cop, the cop gets him and not you, right? So you get the benefits of enjoying this heightened speed, but you also have the protection of the White Rabbit, because he will take the fall first before you do, right? And it's even better when that car is white, because obviously it's a white rabbit, right? So that's just, a little bit more fun. It doesn't actually change anything, but I get a kick out of it anyways. And that's something, dude, I used it literally every single time that I drove. Sometimes you don't get it. And so you just have to be the one speeding. And I've seen other people white rabbit me too. So it's definitely not just a me and this lady thing. So check that out. If you're in Miami, then you can pretty much speed at whatever amount over the limit as you want, and nobody cares. Police are like nearly non-existent here, evidently. But I mean, they are existent. They are just attending to other things, I guess. But in a place with less traffic and more, old drivers that just putz along. You see somebody going quick, you jump out right behind them and just follow them. Right? They switch lanes, you switch lanes too. Just keep tracking them, right? But that's all Nick has today. Let me know what you guys think. Oh boy, I'm recording this after work, so it is a little sleepy, and I'm about ready for the sack, son. So, but yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know if you like what I'm saying here, or you have some objections, or you don't like it, or you think I'm goofy, or you think I'm brilliant, or you want to, give me $100 or something. Either way, whatever floats your boat. But let me know. I want to hear things. I want to hear things in the comments down below, dude. I would love some interactions, just to see if I'm onto something here or if I'm not. I mean, I'm pretty sure that most of this stuff is like pretty rock solid, but there is obviously, as a scientist of life, I have to admit that there is at least a potential possibility that I am incorrect. So that is what conversation is for. That is what testing is for. That is what this is for. So let me know. And in the meantime, I hope you guys get it. I hope you guys are out there making stuff happen, bringing a little bit more light, bringing some value, making this place a little bit better to live, because why not? Why wouldn't you? Right? So with that being said, I will leave it at that, and thank you so much for watching, and Nick out.